You
I
know,
run on nicotine and caffeine.
we're the same age, and I tell you anymore, if I drink a lot of water. I had some stomach issues, and the doc says drink water. It really helps with the indigestion real bad. And it's just chewing, but I won't give it up. But if I can sleep through the night or get about 4 or 5 hours without having to get up and pee,
Yeah.
about 6 o'clock.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
You know,
That's me.
when we fly, we have family out of state, so we have to fly there. The day before I leave, I start dehydrating myself. I can't stand to get on a plane and have to try to pee. And it never fails. I don't know if it's the cabin pressure or what. I can go pee 5 seconds before I get on. As soon as it gets up in the air, I gotta go pee. You know, and everyone, you're walking down the aisle trying to get people out of your way.
Especially when you gotta really go.
Yeah, so I've learned to just dehydrate myself like crazy before. And it never fails. It never fails.
It seems like I drink more at night. Whenever I go to bed, I have to have something right there. Because I get up 2 or 3 times to do my nebulizer, and then you have to have something to drink to wash the yuckiness out, go down.
My grandson's got asthma real bad, and he starts wheezing. And we're fighting with the insurance company to get him one of those breathing things, so they can give him treatments at home instead of having to go pay $1,000 at the ER to get a breathing treatment. The insurance company says, well, no, you got to have a prescription from a doctor to get it. We're going.
You do. Although both my machines were gave to me. You know, I didn't have to.
The steroid stuff that you put in, you have a prescription, right? Is that how that works?
Butyrol, sulfate, and something.
Okay. He's going to be nice to you anyway. Well,
I know you said no, but I was told you'll be drinking for somebody, and I'm offering.
Wade and them have a little advantage over me, Tony. They've met you before, and I want to I thank you for coming down here to talk to us.
Well, you know, as a state employee, you know, it's something we have to do.
Well,
We have to abide by all
right. Well, we appreciate
law
it.
enforcement and all that.
And here's where we're kind of bad. We're still looking at the Hurston Hatfield thing, and we're going back and we're talking to a lot of people. And I know over the years.
You weren't there the first time they came down, were you?
You know.
No, I was with Miller the last time we came to talk to you about the other deal.
You, over 17 years, I know in my life, I've changed a lot. And so we wanted to talk to you about if you can kind of tell me 17 years ago how your life was, how that neighborhood was, what was going on in that neighborhood. I know I've read some of the reports that from the interviews before, and how it appears to me that they call you Uncle Tony around there because you care about the kids. You were feeding some of the kids.
Yeah. Basically, when I lived there, there was a bunch of older people. That was like not no retirement place, but most of the people in that area were old retirees.
Yeah.
And you know, I like doing stuff all the time. You know, I was always outside, and if somebody's working on their vehicle, got to go be busybody, hey, you know, and help them, or somebody's washing machine was broke down. And older people, you know, they can't. Older people, you know, can't do stuff. And I've always been mechanically inclined, you know, where I could figure stuff out, you know, or help them move this, or, you know, just, I've always been, I don't know about friendly, but neighborly.
Right.
And that being my first home, you know, I tried to make it where that neighborhood was my home.
Yeah. Well, did you help any of the kids over there?
Well, when
feed them pizza.
Yeah, there's always That's my
Your Kool-Aid house?
Well, I don't know about Kool-Aid. That's always been my pet peeve, is I grew up hungry. You know, and there's a lot of kids hungry.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not where I'd go out of my way, hey, you hungry? But I mean, you see kids, you're over there eating something, and they're just,
Right.
you know, you see them draw, here, take it.
Right.
I can't stand that.
Yeah.
And I'm like that now. I got 2 damn kids in my house, grown boys. One, he says that when he was at his house, he didn't eat from Monday to Friday till he got to my house.
Wow. You know, that's one of those stories I want to turn my phone off so people will
me
leave
too.
me alone.
Before we get
nobody
started
calls
here,
me.
Tony, let me go ahead and I want to read you your Miranda warning, okay?
Okay.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to talk to a lawyer and have him present with you while you're being questioned. If you cannot afford to hire a lawyer, one will be appointed to represent you before any questioning if you wish one. And if you decide to make a statement, you can stop at any time. And do you understand each of those rights I've explained to you? Having those rights in mind, do you wish to talk to us?
Yes.
Okay. As my partner, Lander said, we're still working on the Hatfield case, okay? And there's some things that we want to go back over with you. We try to be as thorough as we can be on cases like this, and I'd like to go back initially over some of what you've already talked to Detective Miller about in the past. I wasn't there. I'm kind of up to speed on some of it, but my understanding is when Kirsten disappeared, you were still living there
Yes.
at 1104, correct? Okay. Do you mind just initially kind of take us back to 1997 and go back over that, maybe that evening before and into that morning when all of it kind of started blowing up, and just best you can tell us everything you remember. And take your time. I know we're going back some years.
Yeah, and I'm starting to get that old timer stuff. But really the only thing I can really remember is afterwards, you know, when, you know, 'cause it was just a typical day. You know, got off work, went home, had supper, watched TV, went out, because used to being a landscaper, my yard was my pride.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wanted to play in my yard because my yard was nothing but Bermuda.
There
I
you
mean,
go.
I had, you know, I just had Bermuda grass.
Sure.
But I mean, not that they came over there, but that's what I did. I always worked on my yard.
Mm-hmm.
And-
And back then you said you were working at the Capitol?
Yes.
So, okay, so you were very experienced keeping the yard
Oh
up.
yeah, yeah. I well, you know, got chemical license, all that.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Okay. You remember anything about the day or evening before? You said it was just a typical day. You worked all day and then went home. You remember anything unusual about that evening that stands out to you?
No, other than what I told them about, you know, seeing the white truck, you know, in front of the white Chevy truck in front of their yard.
Okay.
You know, I like I said, I didn't have anything to do with those people. Didn't know them at all. You know,
Okay.
it's not like I went, hey, yeah, you got little girls. No, it wasn't nothing like that.
Okay.
I was outside working on my yard. You know, either talking to the neighbors or kid would come by, Tony, can you fix my bike? You know, stuff like that.
Mhm.
You know, it wasn't like I'd tell them to come over or anything.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't go to other people's houses unless, you know, I was needed or something like that, but everybody just got, oh, Tony will fix your bike and blah, 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 you know. And I tried to make it feel like, you know, that was kind of a safe place, you know, for, you know. Because I had Tristy at the time, she wasn't there during that time, but I had Tristy there since she was, you know, small. And whenever she was there, you know, the kids would come and play with her. And
Now,
you
who
know,
is Tristy? I don't know.
she was one of my girlfriend's daughters
Okay.
that stayed with me a lot.
Okay. So you had a good bond with Tristy, I'm assuming?
Yeah, yeah.
Was she?
And her mom, yeah.
Who was mom?
Mom's dead, unfortunately. Melody, I wonder which name she wanted to go to. Howell. had
old is
2
Christy
daughters.
now? Grown, I'm assuming.
Yeah, about 30.
Okay.
No, we don't talk that much anymore because everybody's into this computer stuff, and that's how they communicate. But my daughter was looking on her Facebook, and she'd send us a text that she was fixing to have or that I'm a grandpa.
No.
She had a daughter.
Good.
You said you didn't know them. I'm assuming you're meaning Shannon and Kirsten?
Yeah.
Or
And I couldn't even tell you how long they'd lived there.
Okay. I was going to actually ask you that. So you didn't know how long they'd been living there when this happened?
And I going to think they hadn't been there very long.
And tell me what you remember about that. Do you remember seeing them move in or anything?
No. No. I'm trying to remember. A friend of mine lived in that house. I can't remember what his damn name is, but he had a janitorial service, Janny King, and I'd visit with him. I helped him put the fence up around his house. Helped him. In fact, his boy come up missing one day.
Really?
Yeah, he was like 7 or 8 or younger than that. And we went looking everywhere for him. We finally found him. He was under the bed. Went to sleep and crawled underneath the bed. But I mean, everybody was freaking. We had Midwest City out there, and of course, everybody in the neighborhood was out there looking. Me and him were, going up street, hollering his name, and then she calls, says, "Yeah, we found him. He's under the bed."
That's usually where we start. You learn that early on in FTO school. Check all the closets, check out in the boat, in the backyard, and the shed. So you're saying this friend of yours lived at the house where Shannon and Kirsten lived?
Right.
Okay. And was that immediately before them, or do you know? Do you remember?
I don't remember, to tell you the truth.
Okay.
I don't remember if after he moved out, if there had been somebody in that house before they did, or what. I don't remember.
You remember that guy's name? I know you said you didn't.
William was his first name.
Okay.
I don't remember what his last name was. That's been a while back.
And you said you helped put up the fence around the property, so we're talking about the stockade fence in the back?
Yeah.
So you and William put that up?
Yeah, plank at a time.
That's the old school way.
Yeah.
Makes it look nice that way.
Stick at a time, yeah. Well, actually, we had to put it up twice because we had a storm come in and it blew one side all the way back down. So we had to go put it back up. We got him to finally put the metal holes. Yeah.
Okay. So, had you ever been inside that house when that gentleman lived there, William?
Well, yeah.
Okay. And you don't recall his name, but he owned or worked for Janny King?
I think he had a, what do you call it, anyway, yeah.
Janitorial service?
Yeah, it was a janitorial service, but, you can have a piece of that company, but you still be the company, but you're your own boss. Franchise. There we go. That's the critter I was looking for.
So you never, I'm assuming you probably saw Shannon and Kirsten running around the neighborhood and so forth.
To tell you the truth, until that happened, I think I seen the kid one time. She was playing with Crystal that lived up the street, but I don't remember if it was in that time frame or what. I really don't, because like I said, I didn't pay no attention.
Okay. Do you remember ever like giving food to Kirsten or talking to Kirsten?
No.
Was she ever at your house?
No.
Anything like that? Okay.
No.
And do you remember?
I'm actually a leery guy until people start coming around. I'm just oh yeah, I will be your friend. No, not like that.
Yeah.
But I didn't know. I didn't pay attention to who all was there or who they were. Things like that in my world just fall in place. We accidentally meet. Oh, okay. Yeah, now I know you.
Right.
Then, but no, never.
Do you ever recall helping Kirsten with her bike
No.
or anything? You don't remember any interactions with her at all?
No, I know there wasn't any interactions. I didn't know them at all. And like I said, I don't even know how long they'd been living there until that happened.
Okay.
Because I was always, me, that was back when I was fishing. I'd usually come off of work, I'd load up my poles, go to Draper. And sometimes I'd stay there all night.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd always have, you know, second jobs, you know, after hour jobs,
Mm-hmm.
either landscaping or anything to make a buck.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm pretty sure that Detective Miller talked to you this before, but am I correct that you said you had never been over there mowing for Shannon or
No,
working on
never.
her property or? Okay.
No.
Seems like that come up. Somebody thought you might have been mowing over there or something.
No, he was asking, it's about something about a handyman, was what he
Okay.
was asking me about.
Okay. Well, do you remember ever mowing over there or
No.
anything like that?
No.
Okay. While they lived there, do you remember ever being in the yard, the front or backyard for any reason? Okay. How about in the house?
Nope.
Okay.
And
So there was
no-
to any time
No.
that Shannon asked for your help to
No.
fix this or that or
No.
mow the yard for me or? Okay.
Just tell you the truth, the only, and I didn't even recognize her when y'all showed me the pictures of her.
Mhm.
That was the only time I could actually say, okay, that's, you know. I met her once afterwards. She was going up and down the street and, you know, she was still looking for her kid and, you know, I met her once. I gave her some money so she'd have gas money so she could keep doing what she was doing, you know.
Was this like in the days after or
Yeah,
we're talking a long
days
time?
after.
Let me bounce back a little bit. We got off a little bit off track. I was kind of having you go back over what you remembered through the night, and I read over the FBI notes that they took when they talked to you. I guess there was some information about you hearing dogs barking.
Yeah, I had a dog in the backyard, his name was Dog. About 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, he went to raising hell. So I just, you know, believe it or not, in my neighborhood, we still got skunks and possums and stuff like that, plus other dogs, you know.
Mhm.
So I don't know why that woke me up, but because I usually didn't wake up, and usually he's out inside anyway. But it woke me up, and he was barking at that back fence, at our back fence. But at the time, as you walk out my back door, I had an old apricot tree. So unless you went out there, you know, you couldn't see. And I just hollered at him because, you know, thinking it was another dog, or because there was always, and traffic, there was human traffic back there. But usually it was
alley
other
we're talking
dogs,
about.
yeah. There was other dogs or cats, and there was always animals through there. So I just, you know, I really didn't think nothing about it. I just hollered at him, and he came in, and I went back to bed.
So you actually let him back into the
Yeah.
house?
Yeah.
So you opened, what, your back door, I'm assuming, and let him in?
Yeah.
Did you go investigate?
No.
Did you look down the alley?
No.
Anything like that?
No, because usually in the past, whenever I did, that's what it was, you know, either another dog or people use that alleyway, you know, to get through. Why, I don't know, because, I mean, I don't know where you'd be going other than from house to house, but there was always, not always, but there was traffic.
Okay. And speaking of the alleyway, did you have any kind of a gate or anything that went out to it? So you didn't have access to it through your backyard?
No.
I mean, I think that'd be ideal to be able to go out into the alley and you could back a trailer up, and it just seems like everybody had a gate.
Well, the house next door to me didn't have a fence. So whenever I weed eated or, you know, did whatever, because I always weed eated, you know, 2 foot around from my fence, you know, next door, and then that alleyway, which the alleyway was,
Because I read your statement, you said you saw your gate ajar. Which gate was that?
gate ajar.
Yeah. You didn't have a gate on the back or on the side? Did you have a gate on the side of the house?
Yeah, we got a gate. Well, it's a gate, but no, it wasn't ajar.
Okay.
Anything else that night after you let Dog back in? Did anything else occur that you remember?
No, I went back to bed. Me and Dog.
Okay. And then when did you first become aware of Kirsten was missing and all that was going on?
Well, the next day there was all that activity, and I asked the neighbor across the street what was going on. They said they couldn't find Kirsten, and I didn't think nothing about it, you know. I went to work, and then I don't remember if she called me or I called over there or what, and they said they was wanting people back, you know, because they wanted to go to our houses and blah, 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 so clocked out and came back home.
Do you remember what time it was that you clocked out, came back home?
No.
Was this morning? Was this afternoon?
It was, probably mid-morning, something like that.
Now, who was the friend that you were communicating with?
It was, and I don't know what her name is. Y'all showed me a picture of her.
Okay.
I think y'all showed me a picture of her. Anyway, of her husband, Don.
Is this the Halseys, Tiffany Halsey and Don Halsey?
I
Or do you
guess,
know?
yeah.
I'm not sure if Mr. Halsey is Don or not. Did you have
Somebody had called me, said that we were wanted back at our house.
Okay.
So I came home.
Okay. And then what happened?
I just sat there.
Did any of our officers or the FBI or anybody come by?
It was the FBI, you know.
Okay.
We came in, took statements, you know, walked through the house and, you know, wanted to go in the backyard and, you know, because I had a shed back there. He wanted to look in the shed and.
Okay. So he did look through the house and look through the shed?
Yeah.
You probably don't remember who that was, I'm sure.
No.
Okay. And was he just asking you general questions about Kirsten, and did you know her, have you seen her, that kind of thing, or?
Basically.
Did you write out a statement for him, or was it just a conversation?
I thought he brought up a statement.
Okay.
But he asked me if he'd come in, he wanted, you know, asked me what I knew, which at the time really wasn't anything. He said they was going through canvassing the neighborhood and,
Yeah.
you know, asking everybody and.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
17 years ago, Tony, were you experimenting with any drugs?
No.
Never did?
No. I drink beer.
That's it? Just drank?
I drink beer.
Uh,
But as far as drugs, no.
Was Kirsten ever one of the kids that you had seen, or was there any talk in the neighborhood about her being mistreated or abused or in need?
No, because like I said, I had no inkling that they even existed until after that.
Until
I didn't
after
know,
that,
yeah.
You had never seen her, anything?
Maybe
like that?
once or twice and didn't think nothing about it, you know, just another kid.
Yeah. Okay.
Speaking of 17 years ago, who all was living there at your house back then?
Just me.
Okay, so you lived alone. Do you recall, were you dating anybody? Did you have a girlfriend?
Me and Melody were off and on
Okay.
years.
For years? And you said that was Melody Howell, right?
Yes.
And what's her daughter's name?
Tristy. She's got two daughters, Tristy and Robin.
Tristy?
Mm-hmm.
T-R-I-S-T-Y?
S-T.
And Robin?
Robin.
Did you say S-T-I?
No.
Or Y? Okay. Do you know what Tristy and Robin's last names are?
Tristy's was Howell at the time. Robin was married, I think, at the time.
So she was going for something different. Would Melody come stay the night with you sometimes?
Oh.
That kind of thing? Okay. But she didn't live there full time?
No. But she's, like I said, she passed away about 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah. That's not good. As far as other people you hung out with back then, do you have any good friends or anybody that you associated with in the neighborhood, or?
Oh, in the neighborhood? No. No.
Okay, how about just generally, like who were your friends, best you can recall back then?
Basically just people that I worked with.
Okay. Up there at the Capitol?
Right.
No long lost pal from school or anything?
No.
I guess you moved off from New Mexico and left them there, didn't you?
And I'm not the kind that goes to a bar, you know, if I'm gonna drink, I drink at home. I mean, I know I've met a lot of people, but.
So you would drink some, but didn't experiment with drugs, didn't do marijuana, anything?
No.
Did they drug test back in them days? At your work?
Well, they always hung that over on us, you know, but we never had got UA'd.
Okay. So it was kind of the threat.
Yeah. There was some I wish they would have.
You ever had any trouble with the law, Tony?
Oh, yeah.
Before?
Years ago, first degree burglary and assault and battery with a dangerous weapon. I think I told your partner that.
Really?
Back when I was a dumb kid.
How long ago was that?
I was, I think, fixing to turn 18.
Oh, so you were just a boy.
Yeah. And all about it, my girlfriend.
Where was that at?
Walters, Oklahoma.
Oh, okay, up in Cotton County.
Yep.
And you
When
were
I got out of
18?
the Job Corps, they found me a job there in Walters as a diesel mechanic.
Is that what your training was?
Actually, I was training
At
for
the
auto
Job Corps.
mechanic, but they found me a job as a diesel mechanic, and the counselor at Job Corps, he made some deal with the government that if the government or the employer would pay half the wages, they would pay, you know, for OJT.
Right. Uh-huh.
So it was a pretty good deal.
Yeah, it was. I'm surprised that you didn't stay with that. Those diesel mechanics make some money.
Yeah, but it's hard work.
Or is it? It can be harder than weed eating all
Yes,
day
they
long.
can too. Some of them parts weigh, heads for one of the Versatiles was probably 200 pounds, and you got a tire about that high, and you got to get it up on that and get it, you know, on the block, and then you're torquing stuff at 240 foot-pounds, you know, laying on your back, and it's hard.
In the last 17 years, Tony, have you changed much? Is this how you were 17 years ago? Just a hard-working man?
Yeah, that's basically it.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've changed older-wise, but no.
I'm not the same person I was 17 years ago. I've matured a little bit. And
I wish I could say that.
life changes people, you know. As you get older, you start recognizing things that you could handle differently than what you.
Mm-hmm.
If you had it to do over again, you'd change. You know, I can truly
Yeah, but
say
that's
that.
the thing. We can't ever change it.
Yeah, no, you can't change what happened, but sometimes you can make things better. I remember a few years ago, I went to my high school reunion, and I seen a kid that, honestly, I just tormented to death. I made his, and I was able to find him and
Make amends.
I make amends and apologize and tell him how, you know, that I was immature at the time, and ask for his forgiveness. And you know, I think by the end he actually remembered some of the things I'd done, and we talked about it, and I felt a lot better, and I think he felt better at the end. I know I did when he said he gave me some absolution, some forgiveness for what